May 23rd, 2017 at 7 o'clock p.m. Debbie, could you please call the roll?
Blakely. Dremel.
Here.
Dryden.
Here.
Gaspar.
Here.
Locke.
Here.
Lowe.
Here.
Seabar.
Here.
Mr. Lowe, could you please lead us in the pledge?
I guess so.
Roll.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Dr. Hitchens, are there any items to be removed from or added to or changes to our agenda tonight?
I have one change. Because most of the people are here to celebrate something tonight, we're going to move the celebrations first, and we'll move the public hearing to after the public comments. Then we'll talk about the public hearing later, but we are going to start with the celebrations.
Yay. All right, so moving on to our celebrations. The first celebration tonight, I'd like to invite Principal Nicole Prentice and Angie Sutherland up to talk about the JVN Incubator Teens Outdoor Learning Space. You guys are like movie stars because you watched your movie today.
Where's the dog?
You can just go stand.
Hello, we are the Innovation Incubator. I'm Anna. I'm Billy. I'm Ian. I'm Vicki. So first we went to Google and we went through the design and thinking process, and we had the idea of rejuvenating our courtyard into an outdoor learning space. While we were doing that, we thought of our stakeholders, our obstacles, and steps we would take to achieve our goal.
We also met weekly, and we sometimes met in our courtyard, and then we were talking to the principals and other people to help us with it.
Some of our components were breadable tabletops made from fiberglass, and we stuck dry erase material so students can write on. Then the watchdogs built pergolas for shade. After that, we collected and cut old yoga mats for flexible seating. Then we bought a bench for storage for seating with the GoFundMe contributions.
More things that we put in our courtyard were plants to brighten up our courtyard, a shed for extra storage, which was built by an Eagle Scout. We also have ducks that come to our courtyard and have ducklings every year, so we had to buy tunnels to help them get out. Another thing we need is Wi-Fi to help students use technology out in our courtyard. The Wi-Fi was not funded this year, but we're hoping for it in the future.
Thank you to all the people who helped us with this project and the board for taking an interest.
Can you guys just say your names and places just really fast, just so that you know who you are?
I'm Anna. I'm Billy.
I'm Ian.
I'm Vicki, and Grace, she's part of our innovation incubator, but she went to Florida.
You guys did a wonderful job, because I was over there on that night to see it, and the honor Mrs. Regal. And you guys put a lot of work into that, and you guys should be commended for that. So it was great ingenuity and all that on your guys' part for thinking of all that. You guys did a nice job.
Yep. We're quite proud of you.
Yep.
Next, we would like to have our Lift Up 101 student recognition. Dr. Hitchens.
Okay, I am going to be joined here by a few students and their teacher, or their nominators, to talk about the Lift Up 101 Challenge, which we've talked about this year on and off. And that was, as we know, King County Elementary Teacher of the Year, Mary Jensen, came up with this idea in the fall. And most of the teachers have been joining on and encouraging their students to lift up others just through their kindness and their kind acts and words towards each other. And so it has been a great success. And what we did was, I'm going to call up a couple students right now, Drew and Lily, Drew Pogie and Lily Miller. And Ann Peonessa is the principal of H.C. Storm School, and Jenny Canaris is a teacher over at Bertolo Middle School. And so what we did for the second semester was we said to the teachers and all the staff, hey, tell us about the great things that the kids are doing to lift each other up. And we want you to nominate them. And so we had so many teachers that nominated students and other staff members. And we randomly drew a student for February, March, and April. And we called them the Lift Up 101 Student of the Month. And so they're only a representative of all the kind acts that have done and that have gone on this year. There have been thousands, I mean tens of thousands at least. And let's hear a little bit about what these guys did. Drew, do you want to talk about your poster idea?
Well, so
It was awesome.
my mom's school had a sign, and it's near the down hall.
Was it, why don't you tell everybody what the sign was called? So it was,
It was called "Don't Be a Bully, Be a Buddy," and that gave me an idea to, since a few days after I heard that there was some bullying and stealing in my school, so that's when it gave me the idea to make those posters. And then some other people joined along, and then it was just like a chain reaction.
so when we went and gave Drew his award, he got a certificate, and his whole class really also helped to get him to earn that certificate because they all made the posters, and so he wanted everybody to be in the picture. So if you see it on Twitter, his whole class is in the picture when he got the poster because he wanted everyone to be recognized. So thank you, Drew.
Thank you.
And Lily also had a very creative idea to spread kindness. What was your idea, Lily?
My idea was a bookmark, and you write an inspirational quote or like a summary of a book, and then you put it on the table, and then people can take them and make their own if they want to, so other people can use them.
Thanks, Lily. That was really nice. Well, I know we're not done lifting each other up, but these two just represent just a fraction of what happened, and I thought those were really creative ideas, and we just picked them randomly out of all the students that were nominated, so you can imagine all the other kind of acts that went on. There was also a high school student who wasn't able to join us who was picked, and that was Eric Christofferson, and he was selected for his mentoring that he does with some of the younger students in the district. So thanks to everybody who participated, and you guys have a great summer.
Next, we'd like to celebrate the Education Foundation Spring Grants. I actually saw a number of Education Foundation members here, but I will call up Catherine Fitch to start the recognition.
Thank you. Can I just grab it? Right there? Perfect. Well, thank you so much. We're so excited. This is one of my two favorite nights of the year, fall grants and spring grants. Particularly spring grants because this is when we hand out the big money. And unfortunately, Karen Holden, who is the chair of the grants, was unable to join us tonight because she has a senior graduating tomorrow night. So she has a little bit going on, but I know that she and our entire team have worked incredibly hard on all the wonderful applications that we received. This year, we awarded $35,389.81 in grants. I know we've got a big crew tonight and a lot of people and a lot going on, so I'll just say people's names and we'll hand you your certificate, and if you could just stay up here quickly, we'll go through that way. My lovely assistant, Nan Phillips here, is going to be handing them out, so if you actually stand here, Nan. Yeah, we call her Vanna, normally. But. All right, the first one was High Interest Classroom Books for Deer. These are teachers from Bertolo Middle School, Kelly Cook, Katie, darn it, do it, Gabris, and Kara Schuster. The next grant was Rock and Row from Batavia High School, Dwayne Zimmerman. The next one is The Back Room, a student design collaboration, Amy Miller and Kathleen Thierry-Ton at Batavia High School. The next one is Biotechnology in a college-level STEM class, Donna Dietrich and Michelle Fabian, Batavia High School. The next one, The Wonderful World of Ozobots, Alice Gustafson School, Tamara Ashby, Carrie McQuillan, Amy Rash, and Jake Wyatt. The next is Literacy in the Making, Julie Phillips, J.B. Nelson School. The next is Let's Get to the Core, K-O-R-E, of Learning, Wobble Chairs by Core Design LLC. That's Louise White School, and unfortunately they are not able to attend tonight, but it's Ann Burnham Davis and Gina Consiglio. Versatiles, H.C. Storm School, Jody Bird, and Jennifer Torgensen. Adventure Education Rockwall, Batavia High School, Ryan Farwell, and Alex Beckman. Last, but certainly not least, Creating an Interactive Classroom for Unique Learners, J.B. Nelson School, Sarah Malkowski, and Mary Johnston. Unfortunately, because of time and the number of grants that we are awarding tonight, I'm not able to go into detail for all of these wonderful projects that these educators have put together. So we're going to have more information on our website that you can look at, and pictures hopefully, and you'll see these grants in action. So I just want to say congratulations to everyone and thank you so much.
Thank you. And our last celebration for the evening is the boosters are here. Dan Hilliard, Lori Biddle, and Brian Cleaver.
It's all back to fall.
I know, right?
Well, good evening. Since we last were presenting before the school board, many of the student athletes and other individuals throughout the district and throughout the community have been fortunate to be able to use a turf field. And continuing our partnership with the Batavia School Board and Batavia Public Schools, we're here tonight to present to you the next installment, if you will. Last year, you might recall, we presented the district with a $200,000 check, and things have gone very well and according to plan, and $60,000 is what we have to present you this evening.
One thing I wanted to mention is that the Cougars came to the boosters and asked, they're doing a Craig Sager night, it's June 29th, so we are joining forces with them. His family is supporting this, it's a Sager night, it's a fundraiser for them, and they're also going to do a little kickback through ticket sales for the boosters. So in the next week or two, you'll see a lot of Twitters and Facebooks and posters all around town. So if you're free and can come out, it will be a great night for the Sager Foundation.
Okay, if we get Lisa up here, Brian will present a real check along with that. At the same time, I'd just like to say I am the president of Boosters. We certainly could use more volunteers. It's a big organization. And just because you're on a school board means you can't be a volunteer. Because that driving guy, he sells a lot of hot dogs. We certainly appreciate it. But Lisa, part of our second installment, Brian has the real money. But you already got it, you already got the money. I just wanted to get a picture of this with you and say thanks.
All right, thank you.
We certainly appreciate it. Everybody have a good evening.
So thank you. We, obviously, this is huge for the community. There are so many people that have been using it, and even on tonight, if the soccer was at home, they could have played on it. So
They have played on
appreciate
it.
it. We couldn't have done it without you.
We've had no rainouts.
Thank you.
That's right. Thank you, guys. All right, the next item on our agenda is public comments. So if anyone wishes to address the board this evening, please see our recording secretary, Kathy Scavidi. She will give you a form for addressing the board. And please put your full name and address on the form, as we're required by state law to keep a detailed set of minutes for our meeting. And when you address the Board of Education or Administration won't enter into dialogue tonight. It doesn't mean that we don't take your issues seriously. If you would like further communication with the district about your topic, just please see our recording secretary, Kathy Scavidi. And we ask that everyone addresses the board to please come to the microphone so that they can be heard. And we ask people to limit their comments to 3 minutes. And I know we have a number of people speaking on similar subjects tonight, so you're always also welcome to say, I'm just here to support the people who have already spoken, and we'll still have a record that you were here. Also tonight, there's going to be 2 opportunities for the public to address the Board of Education. At the conclusion of the regular public comments, we're going to open a public hearing regarding the intent to transfer money between funds. And after hearing a short report on the topic, then the public will have the ability to comment on the intent of that transfer. Did everyone who wanted to fill out a pink sheet get a chance to fill out a sheet? If not, see Kathy Scavidi. I'd like to invite Andrea Witt to the table.
Hello, everyone. As you know, you've seen me before. My son goes to Alice Gustafson. I would like to thank you for adding class size onto the agenda. That is something we have been very concerned about all year long. I also know that since we were here 3 weeks ago, we did have a couple of board members who came in to visit the classroom at AGS, so thank you very much to those of you who did that. I will be quick tonight. A couple of points I just wanted to hit on. Since we were here last week, some board members showed interest in the social, emotional, and behavioral needs and concerns that we have in our classroom. I am not privy to that information. However, it has been pointed out to me that that has been formally submitted twice by our teaching staff. It was submitted in the fall to the Classroom Relief Committee, as well in March to the board. So that should not be any new information in regards to the specific concerns that we have in the classroom. Secondly, our last board meeting was May 2nd. I noticed on the district website that you added a link for class size. It was adapted directly from the Barrington School District webpage. I struggle with one piece of that. When I went to the Barrington website, I noticed that one paragraph was omitted on the Batavia's website, and that was, Barrington clearly states a contingency exists to add staff as needed, and that was not on the Batavia website, but that is how Barrington runs their school. So I found that to be interesting and wanted to point that out. I have been fighting this fight since the fall, as many parents and teachers have. I have tried to stick with the facts. I've gone through the chain of command. I've made phone calls, meetings, written letters, and I'm at a point, as I know many other people are, where we have enough is enough, right? We need to move forward. We need to hear from either somebody in the school or the district how we're going to move forward to address the class size issues that we have had. In the last 3 weeks, we have not received any formal communication from anyone at the building level or at the district level. Anyone who has received individual responses has been very vague, and we can often not make heads or tails of what is trying to be relayed to us. I urge you to look at our students as more than just the MAP scores that they represent, to not use them as a means to balance your budget. We are giving you an opportunity to do right by them, and I urge you to do so. I'm very interested to see what you have to say tonight, so thank you.
All right, I'd like to invite Allison Lindy to the podium.
Good evening. My name is Allison Lindy, and I am a parent of 3 students at AGS. This is my 3rd time speaking at a Board of Education meeting, and the 3rd time I've come to stress how important class size is to me and to my family. I am thankful that this issue is being given attention by this board and the administration this evening. For several months now, I have been anxious to hear from the district about what plans are being considered for our soon-to-be 2nd graders at AGS. Lots of questions have been asked, but not many answers have been provided. Lots of concerns have been shared, but distressingly, very few responses have been forthcoming. The communication has been almost entirely one-sided. I hope that tonight, with this issue on the agenda, we can finally get answers to questions we've been asking since August of last year. We're reasonable people. Be upfront with us, please. Don't hide things. Let's put things on the table and try to work together toward a solution that will work for our kids. 27 kids in a kindergarten, 1st, or 2nd grade class is too many. We all know this. Even this administration and this board. The reason I know you know this is because you've set a guideline about class size for this district. Actually, you've set 2, one for kindergarten to 2nd graders and one for 3rd through 5th graders. 27 kids even exceeds your guideline for the higher level elementary grades. And while I realize that a guideline is not a hard and fast rule, you didn't pick that number out of thin air either. You recognized that the young elementary classrooms are best served by smaller class sizes. You set a standard of what is best for the district's younger learners, and you were right. But today, my son is being sacrificed. He's not getting the benefit of that smaller class, and it shows. I know that asking the board to create a 3rd section of 2nd grade at AGS is an unusual step to take. It may be uncomfortable for some of you to set that precedent. I'd like for you to consider it from a different perspective, if you would. All of the current 1st grade teachers have told you several times that the best thing for these students is a 3rd section as they move forward through the elementary school. Many of their teaching colleagues agree. Nearly all of the parents have also told you repeatedly that this is the best option. Please listen to the experts in these kids. Listen to the people who are on the ground raising these young people into future adult citizens. Set a precedent of action by correcting this situation. Let support in the form of real action be your precedent. You've listened to us speak, you've read our letters and emails, you've heard the teachers' statements and read their reports. Now is the time to show us that we're not talking to a brick wall and do the right thing. And when you do, you'll be the board and the administration that listened to the community and then acted in support of our kids. Thank you.
All right, I'd like to invite Jacob Wyatt to the table.
All right, good evening. My name is Jacob Wyeth. I teach 4th grade at Alice Gustafson School. I'm going to be reading a prepared statement from our staff at AGS in relation to the class size and decisions surrounding it for next school year. Throughout the current school year, our staff has been proactively working with the 1st grade team to support students in those larger classrooms. This spring, our staff, our school leadership team, and the administration have met on multiple occasions to plan for 2nd grade students for the 2017-2018 school year. The staff and administration discussed 2 possible options, continuing with the current structure or to do a 2nd, 3rd grade split classroom. Our understanding was that an additional section of 2nd grade was not an option at this time. As a staff, we felt that maintaining 2 classrooms with a higher size would be a better fit for the needs of our students than the split classroom. A split classroom decision is a philosophical change that would impact our students and staff over multiple years' time. The current supports that have been put in place have been successful for our first grade students, and we do plan to continue implementing similar supports in second grade. The staff is confident in the ability to continue implementing these supports in the 2017-2018 school year. We appreciate the collaboration we have between the administration and our staff to make a shared decision about the needs of our students. Thank you.
All right, I'd like to invite Kurt Johansson to the table.
Good evening. My name's Kurt Johansson. I'm the father of a first grader and soon to be kindergartner at AGS. Previous meetings, board meetings, parents have discussed how class size impacts not only academic achievements, but social and emotional growth as well. They provided extensive research, some of which they've shared with you. It's the dialogue that ensued at the last board meeting that I want to focus on. And I think as some of you had this conversation, centered around fiscal responsibility, fiscal stewardship. Adding additional section, additional FT would not be fiscally responsible. So I want you to keep that in mind as I point out a couple line items in your budget. The first thing, now if we all take into consideration that on the salary schedule, average teacher, lane 1, step 1, $42,000. So keep that in the back of your mind as I talk through some of these numbers. There's a line item on page 16, talks about teacher, leader, and committee stipends. So last year, allocation $63,000. This year, $175,000. Increase of $112,000. I'm sure there's a rationale behind it, but it's obviously not the time to debate that right now. But an increase of $112,000 when we're looking at an additional teacher that impacts students, costing the district $42,000. That's one example. Teacher per diem. Line item, $13,000 last year. This year, $50,000. Again, I'm sure there's a plausible explanation for it, but when we're looking at what benefits kids versus the excessive spending here, I'd like to hear that explanation. Those two aside, the one that I really would like you to pay attention to can be found on page 18. It's called tuition reimbursement. Last year, we had allocated $115,000 for administrator reimbursement. This year, just shy of $119,000. If you look back over your last 10 years of financials, this district has allocated nearly $1 million towards tuition reimbursement. You tell me this, as a board, fiscally responsible fiscal stewards, does that make sense to spend that kind of money at the cost of not allowing another teacher to be in the classroom? That's what you got to ask yourself. It comes down to dollars and cents here, right? I mean, your words last meeting, fiscal stewardship, fiscal responsibility. Are you being fiscal stewards? And you can answer that question. But what I can tell you right now is that as a parent, I don't think that you are. Because as an educator, as an administrator at one of the largest high school districts in the state, I can tell you right now, our operating budget of $140 million, 197 days cash on hand, we do not have this luxury line item of $118,000. We don't offer any tuition reimbursement because we don't think it's morally or ethically responsible to our taxpayers. But yet it sits in this budget at the cost of our children. Thank you.
I'd like to invite Eric Johansson.
Good evening, Board of Education, Superintendent Hitchens. My name is Eric Johansson. I'm the father of a third grade student, Brady Johansson, and a first grade student, Colin Johansson at AGS. I'm finishing my 20th year as a high school educator, serving both as a teacher and administrator. Although I do not work in the elementary school setting, I share the same goal as you, doing what's best for students. It's easy for those of us on this side of the room to get caught up in the emotions of a situation like this because we're sending our little boys and girls off to learn in what we hope is the best possible learning environment each day. And unfortunately, we don't believe that's happening. If those of us in this room take a step back from our roles as parents, board members, district administration, and look at this as objectively as possible, we would likely fall back on research to guide us. Fortunately, there's a fair amount of research on class size as it affects learning. From this research, we see that the most significant impact class size has on learning is in grades kindergarten through third grade. The Center for Public Education identified 19 studies on class size in kindergarten through third grade, and some important findings cited are smaller class sizes in grades kindergarten through third can boost academic achievement, and additionally, a class size of no more than 18 students per teacher will produce the greatest benefits. A program spanning grades kindergarten through third will produce more benefits than a program that reaches students in only 1 or 2 of the primary grades. Now, this is important because as the district continues to explore quote-unquote creative solutions, there's our children and your students that are losing time that they will never get back. Probably the most well-known study cited was Tennessee's Project STAR, which is a student-teacher achievement ratio, which included nearly 80 schools from 42 school districts, approximately 7,000 students over 4 years. The results of Project STAR found, quote, substantial evidence that reducing class size improved student academic achievement. None of this was overly surprising to me, as I know the evidence is there. What was surprising to me is how they set up their study. Project STAR used the following student-to-teacher ratios for their longitudinal study. A small class was defined as a class with 13 to 17 students taught by one teacher. A large class was defined as a class with 22 to 26 students taught by one teacher. I hope everybody caught the fact that their large class size was defined as 22 to 26 students. While we continue to push our children to learn in, and your students to learn in, and your teachers to teach in, classes that have 27 to 28 first grade and soon to be second grade students. As I mentioned earlier, I've been an educator at the same high school for 20 years now. One of my responsibilities is to manage our sectioning process and our master schedule build for nearly 2,300 students. I understand how difficult that process is and how much a change in one area impacts class size in another. I also understand your point at the last meeting that you have to think about all classes in all of your school buildings. However, one thing that I mentioned at the beginning that we share regardless of grade level or school district is the goal of doing what's best for students. And I know that when I see something that's not right for students, there's always a way to fix it. There are always going to be concerns about setting precedents. However, if you are doing what is best for the students you serve, and we know that research tells us what is best for our soon-to-be second graders, the precedent you set will be that when faced with a difficult decision, you did what was right for kids. That's a precedent that community members will support you every time. Thank you.
All right, I'd like to invite Addie Enos.
Hello, good evening. I'm going to make this kind of short, sweet. My name is Abby Enos. I have 3 kids who will all be attending Alice Gustafson next year, 4th, 2nd, and kindergarten. I just want to say thank you for taking the time to listen and try to come to a solution for us. My son Kai was one of Mrs. Green's 27 first grade students this year. That would be 27 unique individuals with a story, a family, strengths, and weaknesses. 27 children that needed personalized attention and instruction. 27 unique minds to mold. And while I can't say enough to how amazing the first grade team was, I certainly saw the struggles throughout the year as well. From pulling resources from other areas of the school, to many students being shuffled around to just accommodate help in creative ways, and even in my son himself. Research shows that lower class sizes, especially in early elementary, are linked to positive educational benefits, such as better test scores, fewer dropouts, higher graduation rates. According to the U.S. Department of Education, crowded classroom conditions not only make it difficult for students to concentrate on their lessons, but inevitably limit the amount of time teachers can spend on innovative teaching methods such as cooperative learning and group work, or indeed on teaching anything beyond the barest minimum of required material. I personally choose to send my children to Batavia schools because of our excellent reputation in education. Because we place a value in our community on the best education possible for our youngest citizens. I am not looking for them to simply learn the bare minimum of required material, but rather am expecting they receive much more. I am disappointed this board cannot look past this group of students as merely statistics and data and see them as the unique individual children they are and understand the particular needs they all require. As we look forward into the 2017-2018 school year, I am asking that you please add another section of class as these 7- and 8-year-olds instead of just creative students that don't meet the expectations and many other parents place on Batavia schools. Thank you.
Laura Miller.
Thank you. My name is Laura Miller. I want to thank you for taking the time tonight to actually discuss the class sizes, specifically those that are affecting our incoming second graders at AGS. I did speak at the last board meeting as well from the viewpoint of a former educator and mother. I know that this is not the precedent that this board wants to set when it comes to making the decision on the number of sections per grade level at each building. However, I want you to take into consideration that this group of parents have been aware of the situation and trying to rectify it since last spring. In the spring, we as parents were told there would be around 23 students in each section of first grade. I understand that people move into the district and this number can change. However, we are also told that a core curriculum coach would be hired to assist both fourth grade teachers and first grade teachers. After a section of fourth grade was added, this core curriculum coach was not hired. Consequently, there were even larger class sizes without the extra support. In October, many parents once again contacted the school administration, central office administration, and the board to ask for more support for these large class sizes. Support was given by the school's instructional coach and reading specialist during set periods of time throughout the day. Eventually, a paraprofessional was hired part-time to assist for a period of the time in the morning and then a separate period of time in the afternoon. After all of this has taken place, this district once again has decided that our children should remain in larger than average class sizes. The district class size tab on their website has changed several times in the last 2 days. However, we are sitting at the class size average for the district for first grade this year is between 22 and 24. If recommended class size, we are sitting at 27, that means there are plenty of sections below the contract's recommended class size, which is all that we are asking for as well. Therefore, we are appealing to you as our board members to help remedy this misfortune of our children's primary education. I wanted to take a little bit of time to share with you some research that I've come across in regard to class sizes, particularly in the primary grades. Economist Diane Whitmore-Salzenbach studies education policy. She's a faculty research fellow at the National Bureau of Economic Research and a visiting scholar at the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago. She and her colleagues are examining the life paths of the 12,000 children who were previously mentioned that were in the STARS program in Tennessee. Salzenbach has also used Project STAR data to analyze the importance of classroom composition and class size on student outcomes. The evidence suggests that increasing class size will harm not only children's test scores in the short run, but also their long-run human capital formation. Money saved today by increasing class sizes will result in more substantial social and educational costs in the future. Also, importantly, small classes have been found to have positive impacts not only on test scores during the duration of the class size reduction experiment, but also on life outcomes in the years after the experiment ended. Students who were originally assigned to small classes did better than their schoolmates who were assigned to regular-sized classes across a variety of outcomes, including juvenile criminal behavior, teen pregnancy, high school graduation, college enrollment and completion, quality of college attended, savings behavior, marriage rates, residential location, and home ownership. She also said that policymakers should carefully weigh the efficacy of class size reduction policy against other potential use of funds. While lower class size has demonstrable costs, it may prove the most cost-effective policy overall. In another review of the STAR project, Jeff Gagney and Leonard Matthew found the following. The results revealed that students placed in small classrooms performed better than their peers in larger classrooms across all grade levels tested in all geographic regions. Moreover, findings showed that the sooner students were placed in smaller classes, even as early as kindergarten, the better they performed in third grade assessments. In 1998, the U.S. Department of Education found that pupils who had been in small classes were rated as expending more effort in classroom, taking greater initiative with regard to learning activities, and displaying less disruptive or attentive behavior compared to their peers who had been in regular-sized classes. In 2008, Blatchard, Bassett, and Brown asked the question, do low-attaining and younger students benefit most from small classes? This British study confirms that benefits of smaller class sizes for both primary and secondary students. A University of London Institute of Education study involving 27 primary schools and 22 secondary schools found that students are more likely to be off task when they are in larger classes. The students were closely observed by teams of researchers who recorded their moment-to-moment behavior in blocks of 10-second intervals. They found...
What about 4 minutes? Would you summarize
I'm almost done. Adding 5 students to a class decreases the odds of students being on task by nearly a quarter. Those are 5 students then. We have currently over the class size recommendation. So I implore you to take this into consideration as you discuss class sizes and your creative solutions that will affect our children far past this current academic year and the year to come. Please rectify the mistake that has already been made.
Thank you. All right, so those were all of our public comments tonight. So we're going to move on to our sorry, of
Partners.
our public hearing. Oh, are we going to partners first and then public hearing?
Yes, sorry,
Oh, that's all
I
right.
didn't write it in your script that way,
You
but
did
yes,
not.
partners.
It's all good. All right, so I would like to invite our partners tonight. First, I would like to invite Amy and Carrie. And then, got it.
We're coordinating our outfits.
Well, first off, I want to thank all of the AGS parents and the staff that came out to talk about class size. As you know, I've been talking about class size for the last couple of years, and you can see there's a clear message from the community and the teachers. So I'm really happy to see all the support, and I'm glad you're having a discussion about it tonight. I do want to welcome Mr. Beattybar to the board. Very excited to have a new person on board. And I did want to congratulate all the retirees, all the graduates tomorrow. Very excited for that. The Beefy grant winners are amazing, and I do have the honor of being on the Beefy board, helping to decide that, and they're so innovative and so just fun and amazing to read. So congratulations to them, to AGS and to JB Nelson, and all the great celebrations tonight. I did have a couple of updates for you guys. I'll do the depressing one first. You probably already have heard the ESSA updates about what happened with ESSA when it went to the governor to look over. I don't know if that's something that you're aware of or not, but there was a group of people that have spent over a year developing the Illinois guidelines for ESSA. And it included a lot of community partners. There were teachers on it, people who kind of knew their business, and they made some recommendations. The governor reviewed it, changed all of the recommendations, made it much more like No Child Left Behind, except worse now. So it's, and then he sent it off to Washington, D.C. for Betsy DeVos in the Department of Ed to approve. And it's going to be really hard for our students, I think, because now I have my highlights here, but now the emphasis is really going to be a lot more on standardized testing and the stuff that we tried to get away from by getting rid of No Child Left Behind, and the stuff that we left it up to the states to be able to decide what was best for our schools. So instead of it being 70% on school quality and 30% on student achievement, it'll be 75% on student achievement and 25% on school quality. He added subgroups while lowering the number of students who qualify for subgroups, therefore making many schools that would otherwise be very well rated schools be underperforming or at the lowest level. So that's the state of ESSA right now. I think people need to be aware of it because it's not a true measure of, if this does get approved, which I'm assuming it probably will, it's not a true measure of our fine schools, which you can see by all the stuff that we celebrate every day. So that's my depressing update. Then I have a couple of happy updates. The IEA, the BEA representatives are about to go to Boston for the National Education Association Representative Assembly over the 4th of July week. There I will be transitioning from region chair to the NEA director position, and I wanted to let you guys know, because this will affect you in a more direct way. We have been reaching out to Region 53, which is St. Charles Caneland area. We used to partner with 65 a lot, which is Yorkville, Plainfield, kind of further away. But we're going to be working with them for our legislative breakfast and our President Superintendent Forum. So it'll be a little bit more our area, and things that we have more legislators in common, and just more sort of educational issues in common. So we'll be reaching out to you guys, and also Senator Linda Holmes suggested that our legislative breakfast be in the fall as opposed to right at the end of legislative session, or right after it ends, where it doesn't matter anyway. So we're looking to a September date for that. And my last update is a really happy one. As you guys know, we sent a group of teachers to the 3-day ACES Train the Trainer resiliency, trauma-informed schools training. And then we brought it back, worked really closely with the district to get the Institute Day be all focused on ACEs and trauma-informed stuff. And that was really successful, so we have been asked by IEA to send that group and administrators to present at both the Palatine office June 20th and then this Naperville Gigantic training in August. And they've already started planning for the future in expanding that effort and really getting it going. And then the very last thing I have for right now is there is a sequel to Paper Tigers, which we have been showing, that's called Resilience, and the IEA is giving copies of that so we can show them to the staff and everything. That's kind of a follow-up from the original. So I hope everyone does have a good summer, and people have put in a lot of work. I'm sure they're ready for a little bit of like relaxation time and everything. But thank you very much, and thanks for having the discussions. I appreciate it.
All right, Slow.
Yes, we do have one last celebration.
We do have a celebration that we're putting in our partner section.
And she was part of my first thing that I did as a board member, which was help pick the next student ambassador 2 years ago. And Addie has done a wonderful job, and she has helped the position grow. I think it is a much stronger position than it was, and it's a lot more student interactive, and you provide much greater feedback to us and help us do our job better. So I want to thank you and congratulate you with this plaque. You got to tell us where you're going to school and what you're going to study?
Yes, so I'm going to St. Mary's College in Notre Dame, Indiana, and I'm going to be studying biology along with pre-med. I'm very excited.
Good luck, and thank you for everything you've done for us.
Thank you so
We appreciate it.
You've been great. All right, now that we've flustered her, it's time.
I told our new student ambassador he's mentoring tonight. Chris Theros is in the back there. He is Addie's replacement, and you guys will swear him in at the August meeting. He's here observing tonight.
Awesome. Well, welcome, Chris.
So I guess I'll start. We can start with a summary of our trip to Rotolo. If you guys remember, our principal student advisory team went to Rotolo to talk to the 8th graders about transitioning to high school. So that went well. We gave them a presentation, we taught them the basics, answered any questions, showed them some pictures.
Yeah, surprisingly, none of them had that many questions at the end. So we'll see when they get to the high school if they're a little flustered, if they're too cool to ask some questions. But I heard Justin's classroom, he had, I think Dr. Smith was in the room kind of asking kids spot-on questions on if they knew things. And did they know?
Yep, they got them. Yeah.
They got them.
But we'll see. We'd like to give a congratulations to boys tennis for winning conference. And then also a good luck to girls soccer, girls softball, and boys baseball, who are all competing.
All right, and then for the seniors, today we had our breakfast, and it was a really big success. And then we also had our practice graduation, which was nice to get a good run through. And tomorrow is graduation at NIU, so we're all very excited about that. And then I would just like to say thank you for the past 2 years. I really appreciate being your student ambassador for BHS and to be in a position to be a voice for the student body. I am very confident that Justin will be a great mentor to Chris and that they will continue to voice the concerns and celebrations of the high school. So thank you.
And then, yeah, you guys kind of already introduced him, but here's Chris. Excited to be working with you next year. So. And then, of course, Addie, thank you for working with me.
Of course.
We'll miss you.
Addie, you've done a great job. But I think you're ready. You've had a good year. We're going to miss you guys, dynamic duo.
See you on the big walk tomorrow night.
I know, we're all excited to see you walk tomorrow night, Addie. All right, well, thank you so much.
Thanks, Eddie.
All right. Now we're going to move on to our public hearing regarding the intent to transfer money between funds. And we'll begin the hearing with a brief presentation from Chief Financial Officer Tony Inglesi about the transfer. And then after his presentation, we'll hear public comment or board comment regarding the budget.
All right, just to give an idea of what we're doing in this transfer, it's a formality. It's something that we have to do to transfer money between funds, is hold a public hearing. But this was set in motion when the budget was adopted by the board in September. So if you recall, we made a number of changes in our budgetary practices. A lot of coding changes. You heard some comments earlier. We moved a lot of things around in the past. We realized that things were miscoded, so we're not necessarily increasing per diem payments or things like that. We're fixing the way things are coded. And in this case, we're moving money from the operations and maintenance fund that are spent on capital projects to the capital projects fund. But yeah, there's a whole host of other changes that we're making. And I think in the case of the tuition reimbursement, that actually captures all tuition reimbursement it's not for administrators, but for teachers and administrators alike. And that process, as a matter of fact, is being phased out. Current teacher contract, this is the last year where tuition reimbursement is offered, so that will not be present for teachers next year. So I'm wandering here, but in terms of capital projects, a better practice for us is to move the money out of the operations and maintenance fund into the capital projects fund. This is for this year's capital projects, the year that we're currently in right now. We've already spent much of this money. We're just moving it officially on our books from one fund to the next. We'll spend right around $1.6 million in fiscal 17 on capital projects, and between 1.5 and 1.6 in fiscal 18. Our plans as they are right now. The other part of this public hearing is to move money from the student activity funds into the district's education fund. And as you recall, last year was a little controversial. We realized that there's some inactive student activity accounts, and there's also a number of funds that are really district funds that are being held and booked in student activity funds. In this case, we've been continuing that cleanup process all year long, moving money in incremental amounts that is really district money that belongs on district books. But we also have to have the Board of Education approve that, and that's a formality too. Some examples of that are maybe an LRC collects fines for books that are lost. In the past, we've been recording that in the student activity funds, but that really belongs in the district's books. And the reason being is student activity funds are funds that are literally owned by students, and that's the only place that those funds live. They're fiduciary funds, meaning they're held in trust by the board. Fortunately, we're recording a lot of district-owned money in those accounts, and we need to move them back onto the district books. So again, formality. What we'll ask you to do tonight, after the public hearing, is to adopt the measure that moves the $1.6 million from O&M into capital projects, but we will bring the action for the student activity accounts to you at your next meeting next month, or the next June meeting. There's one June meeting, when we have all that finally tallied up and everything's buttoned up. And at that point, we expect the student activity accounts to be clean, and all the money that's truly student activity accounts, the money that's owned by students, will be in that fund, and then all the money that's district owned will be on the district's books. So that project, a year in the making, it should be complete. So at this point, for a public hearing, we have to offer an opportunity for folks in the public to be heard if they have some thoughts on the matter, or if the board has some thoughts or questions on the matter, but the actual action will take place later in tonight's meeting.
You didn't need to fill out a pink sheet if you'd like to comment on it. You're welcome to just join us at the table and state your name and address so we know who you are. Board member, comments, questions? All right, then I would say that concludes our public hearing regarding the intent to transfer money between the funds. And the action on this transfer is actually in our consent agenda tonight, which is the next item on our agenda. Our consent agenda is a place where we do a number of normal transactions, streamlining our meetings by taking one vote. All of the items are in the agenda, and they're appropriately posted in the board packet. Mr. Pierce, will you please take us through the consent agenda?
Absolutely. 6.1 through 6.4 is the approval of the special meeting, number 1 and number 2 minutes on May 2nd of 2017, as well as the approval of the April 18th closed and regular session meeting minutes. 6.5 is our personnel report. 6.6 is our regular payroll and bills. 6.7 is the destruction of closed session minutes from November 27, 2015. 6.8 highlights a number of donations. We've already heard from Beefy with their spring grants, as well as the large donation from the Booster Club for Bulldog Stadium. We also had donations from Chip In, two donations from the Louise White PTO. The HC Storm PTO made a donation. Aldi donated to the Louise White, and we also had a donation from Chicago Tube and Iron for the Spark Lab and HC Storm. 6.9 is the designation of authorized depositories. 6.10, the IHSA and IESA renewal for 2017-2018. 6.11 is our SAN replacement. 6.12 is the BHS graduation agreement with NIU for the next 4 years. 6.13 is the transfer of money between funds, which was just discussed. 6.14, our activity bus contract. And then we close out with 6.15 with our approval of the consent agenda.
Are there any items on the consent agenda for removal or for clarification tonight?
Can I ask a couple of questions just for clarification?
Sure.
About a couple of different items, and I don't think this is going to take very long. The reason that we use NIU for graduation is about size and scope, and we can't get everybody into our little gym.
We were down
Using-
to, I think,
using-
4 tickets per family before we moved.
4 tickets, okay.
No, it's
You-
unlimited.
Right. Using the field house that we built is not doable for us,
Right.
not for this cost.
Correct.
Are we able to recoup the cost on this through any means? Selling
We
tickets?
could charge for ticket sales, but we've never done that before.
It's not a huge amount of money we're spending per year.
Right, and there were some costs that, if we do have it in-house, it's just a cost that the board or the district takes on to host the graduation. When we had it in-house, we had to pay many police officers, and they come with an hourly rate. We had to pay our own staff for security as well. We had to rent chairs, we had to air condition the space for days leading up to. So it doesn't probably add up to the 10,000, but
Probably
when you
close,
couple
if I
that
recall.
with
Right.
the fact that it was very upsetting to families, extremely upsetting to have to select only 4 people to come. And then when they got there, the seating was not ideal. It was bleachers, and there was barely a good view in the house. If you remember how we set that up.
I think after it was started, after like the first year or the second year it was held, didn't we, Joanne might know this, didn't we survey parents?
Got feedback.
Got feedback, and I think people chose NIU, and it was positive.
Yeah.
Okay. One more quick question. 6.14 on the activity bus contract. And I have asked Tony about this, but I want to clarify. In this 4-year lease for, make sure I get my number right, 5 buses, 5 activity buses, at $149,002, we do not have to pay the maintenance costs on these buses. That's something covered in the contract. So this is a one price buys all.
We, as you know, we don't maintain a fleet of buses, so it'd be difficult for us, harder for us to maintain these activity buses, and so that's why we went the leasing route, and that includes the maintenance.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or clarifications? All right, then I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Locke, second by Rowe. Kathy, could you please call the roll?
Dryden.
Aye.
Gaspar.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Lowe.
Yes.
Davy Bar.
Yes.
Drummond.
Yes. Okay, the next item on our agenda is reports. Dr. Hickman, please start.
So the first 2 are the recurring reports, the FOIA requests and the treasurer's report. Do you have any questions about either of those 2 reports? So the next report then is the class size report, which is why many people have returned, because we began to hear about this in public comment on May 2nd. It wasn't on the agenda, so the board asked that we bring this back
today to put on the agenda. And so we put this on as a report to talk about the process and how we go about staffing our buildings. And I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Newkirk to walk us through that report.
Sure. Both the information that we've recently put on the website as well as the board report are a way of trying to communicate about how we attempt to hit a moving target with class sizes. So our goal is very similar to the boards that they've expressed and the parents that we've heard from, is that we want to make sure that we're providing an optimal learning environment. We may sometimes disagree through the problem-solving process and how to reach agreement on that, but our goals are the same. There's not somebody I know that really wants to pack kids in and do what's not right for kids. So I think we all have a shared interest in doing what's right for kids. The process that we use is detailed both on the website and in this report. And what I think we've gotten better at in the past, I've been doing this job for 6 years, and each year, unfortunately, I've heard from parents similar to the AGS parents, because there's always someone that's a little bit over the guidelines or a lot over the guidelines based on the sectioning that we've done. Since Dr. Hitchens has taken over, we have adopted a philosophy of not holding a contingency, so we try and immediately put all of the resources that we have allocated into the classrooms. I can't say that was the practice in the past. There was a small contingency for problem solving that was kept in reserve to see if it was needed, but we believe that solving problems quicker and getting those resources to the classroom is the highest priority, so we don't hold a staffing contingency within the board's budget. We have worked with different groups throughout the district to go through that problem-solving process. And sometimes those things are very successful, and sometimes those things don't reach the desired results for all staff members, but it doesn't mean we just say, oh well. We continue to work and problem solve with our teachers and with our parents about these issues. I'm going to have Sue pull up the chart of class size, because the board has invested very heavily in trying to reach these class size targets. And while there are classes that are over some of our guidelines, and we try and support them in other ways, we've largely been successful when you look at the district overall in reaching those class size guidelines. So what you're looking at, it's in the board report and it's displayed here for you, is the targets K through 5. And the reason that we talk about most of these issues at the elementary level is because our community has neighborhood schools. We don't have centers. When you get to our middle school, we have a large middle school and a large high school. When you have 15 sections of English 1, you can spread kids out more evenly across 15 sections than you can 2 or 3. So the bubbles tend to hit at the elementary levels, so that's why largely our conversation focuses and much of our work focuses on the elementary when we're talking about class size. So you can see the 2016, 2017, and what we're projecting for 2018 class sizes by grade level. And not all of those are directly at the targets that are contractual with the association, but we continue to work. The other factor that's not in these numbers is class composition. So it's something that we're aware of, that there are differing levels of class composition. Those issues are a lot more nuanced than taking a look at how many pupils are in a classroom. So we're well aware of class composition issues, and we try and work to support students in that way. So while we're not always successful, and it's not always the solution that people want, we do try and problem solve. That's one of the directions from my boss, the superintendent, is that my directive is to try and problem solve the issues that occur. Sometimes it's difficult to find out what the issues are, but the directive is to continue to problem solve. I think the AGS teachers speaking tonight are a good example of that problem solving. I have to say that we had one potential solution in mind for helping with that class size issue, but in working with them and collaborating with them, they had other ideas. And I think it's important to listen and to value the expertise of our teachers about how to manage some of these issues. So I appreciate them fully engaging in that problem-solving process with us. We've tried a number of different supports and approaches when we do this problem solving. Sometimes we do add another section of students. Sometimes we add partial staff. Sometimes we add paraprofessional support. Sometimes, like in the case of AGS during this current year, we use our specialists, our most highly trained people, to provide small group support for our students. And those are just a few of the things. Next year we'll be taking a look at doing some multi-age classrooms, which would is a different grouping of students, but it's a way for us to manage some larger class sizes and also provide some educational and behavioral benefits to those students. So we're trying really to look at the class size bubbles as they come through, and they will come through, and that will continue to be our reality. We're trying to refine our problem-solving process to be more proactive. The one piece of criticism that I fully own that the parents leveled was about the communication and the slow-to-move piece. We could have improved in those areas and gotten the needed supports there quicker. Problem solving is not always quick, but we can move that quicker. We've worked with our association. Amy talked about her commitment to class size as well. That we're trying to get better at that proactive part of the problem solving process. And I think we still have to improve that communication part. So we will definitely own those pieces, but I think everyone's intention is to best serve our students. So we have a number of different approaches there. You can see the data over time. But I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
First off, is that little red thing?
That's just Sue's cursor.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't like an asterisk.
Or it's my cursor on the back.
Indicating something.
Can I ask the teachers something about this who presented? Or, I know Lisa and you and I had a little brief. I wasn't just sure how to approach that. I mean, I'm just curious.
I think it would depend on the type of questions, because they, they might need to go back and how about you give us some questions and we can answer them at another time. I don't know
hate to
if
put
right
someone
now.
on the spot.
Yeah, and that's what
It depends on
I'm
the
thinking of, because,
But we can certainly collect questions and then revisit this.
all right. Well, let me ask you this, Brad. I'll get back to the teacher part, because I do, since they came and they brought something up, I just want to make sure I understood what they were actually saying.
And I'm going to actually say that Steve might be able to answer the questions because he's been meeting with the
Okay.
teacher. So why don't we do that route instead?
Okay, I'll hold that. With regards to the extra resources, the coaching and everything else that has been put with that group, did it take away from other areas that affected that school throughout the school year?
I don't know how to answer
Okay.
that question. I think whenever you change, like elementary is like a beehive or I guess, no, I'm not gonna go with that metaphor. When you touch an elementary schedule, you're touching like 300 other schedules. So when Mrs. Hemis and Mrs. Regis, they have schedules of the students that they're gonna serve.
Mhm.
When those schedules were readjusted so that they were working with the first grade classrooms, there is an impact there. But I think that in some of the reflections that I've heard, I've not spoken to them directly, they felt it was beneficial to the students.
So beneficial to those students, but I think what John was maybe asking was there a detriment to other students, since we're not working in a situation where we have extra personnel? They actually had a daily task that maybe wasn't being specifically tasked 2 times a day in that classroom.
I don't know how to answer that question.
Okay.
Right, that's a good question that we could, if you guys need that
This
answer,
is,
we
this
could bring
is,
back.
this is, this
because
is,
we don't
this
have
is
to
the
share.
hard part, because of, the only time that we can actually do the discussion is right now, and
Right.
just trying to figure out the scope of this whole thing, and I understand the communication part to the parents, as Brad said, is a very difficult thing. Because you don't want to say something that then triggers something else that is false, totally false, or out of the area. So you gotta, I mean, on our part, I'm looking at everything before I make a decision. And that's why this is very tough for me. And yes, I was in education for 33 plus years, but I was in secondary, so I know it's a totally different animal than the grade school part. Okay, I get that. But I want to be very careful on how I approach, and that's why when I had my meeting with Dr. Hitchens yesterday, and kind of thought the teachers might be here, I was a little hesitant on that to a degree because of what they were going to say compared to what the parents were going to say, and vice versa. So I think this is more time that I have to reflect on it to give any kind of a response right now to do anything. So I mean, that's why I'm trying to tread water very carefully here, just so that I can get the information before we make any kind of a decision. So let me just ask this question. If we make a decision on anything, when would be the bottom end date that we really would have to make a decision? If we went with what we have, if we went with a new section, if we went with something else, when would be, let's say, the end point that we would really have to know by, that we would have to make a decision?
The process is fluid because we will continue to monitor class size.
Okay.
And, if there are more move-ins to this particular grade level, we're going to have to maybe take a different problem-solving approach to that.
Okay.
So, for all I know, I could call, Diane at AGS, and she would tell me we've got 3 move-ins coming into this grade, and we're going to have to shift very quickly to find some other, to go through a problem-solving process.
And a week later, you could have 5 that moved out because of job transfers.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's
I
always a moving
understand.
target.
I know it's a tough one, Brad. I'm just, for us,
Yeah.
and for everybody,
It becomes increasingly more difficult after August, I believe it's 1st this year again.
Okay.
Or 2nd, whatever that Monday in August is, because we will open up Power School to our parents. And once a kid and a parent knows who their teacher is, it's very difficult to then say, whoops, our mistake, and you get reshuffled into another teacher's class. So it's not impossible. We've done it. We did it this year with the kindergarten that was over our guidelines at Hoover Wood School, but it becomes more difficult. We were only able to get 13 kids in that one section at that time.
Okay.
And Jeff, I think one of the questions that you're asking, even if you aren't clear on it, is I think one of the things we want to know is how is our process working? And we'd probably like to talk about like, okay, we've now gone, we're ramping up our problem solving year after year, we're honing it, we're improving it. So some of the questions would be, all right, so we're problem solving in the building, how is it affecting the building as a whole, not just those kids in the grade?
There's a lot that's going into this, so I'm just wanted to.
Because we're really not
Okay.
here talking about specific actions, because again, this is something we keep saying, that the leadership of the school, the teachers, and the administration are going to keep talking about. And they're deeply mired into all of the questions and planning and all of that. So this is a chance for us to understand how that works. But I think the important question is it working the way we want it to? And that might be the thing that we need to be assessing every year. Are these problem solving working the way we want them to?
That leads right into a question I want to ask. How do we identify if we have a class that is too large according to our guidelines? How do we identify if it is working or if it's not working? What barometers do we use, and are those barometers adequate?
We look at, test scores give us a good direction of whether things are working or not working. We have some growth measures that we look at over time. We do get feedback. We look at some of our benchmark data as well, which are curriculum-based measures for gauging that. Our teachers give us lots of feedback. We look at the number of students that need interventions at a particular grade level or that need enrichment as well, so on the other end of that
Is
spectrum.
that social emotional interventions as well as curricular
Yep.
interventions?
Yeah. So we look at those items. I don't know if there's any way to truly capture, that I know of right now, the more holistic pieces that we're after. We try and take a whole child approach to it, but it's difficult to get a concrete grasp on that. As you saw from comments, and I have discussions with parents and teachers have discussions with parents, we bring a lot of different viewpoints into that discussion of what success looks like. And so it's hard to get one viewpoint or one metric that will tell me whether it's working or not.
But when we're using those metrics, are we comparing them to other kids at the same level within our district?
Yeah, we all use this common process for doing those pieces, so we're looking at it the same way in each of our buildings.
And then when our teachers spoke, they said that there were two ideas that they were discussing, the status quo or the multi-age classroom, which you said we're going to use somewhere else in the district. If they had gone the route of the multi-age classroom, would that have reduced the class size?
It would have reduced class sizes, yes. It would have raised third grade class sizes and reduced second.
So their professional opinion was that the better solution, even though it would have reduced class size, is that the status quo was a better option.
I didn't work with the teacher specifically, so I'm not going to comment on that, but if you take 5 sections of kids and right now we have 3 sections of third grade and 2 of second grade that are planned, and if you spread the kids out more evenly into those 5 sections, you would get some class size reduction, but I can't speak to
I can. I spoke with that group of teachers, and there was a collective response that they felt very confident that they could meet the needs of these second grade kids with keeping with 2 teachers and utilizing the resources in the building. As a matter of fact, I would tell you that they've already done some collaborating together in their very own building with second and third grade teachers and supporting each other. So they gave me a very collective response, Chris, that they were very confident that they could meet the kids' needs.
Okay.
When we were here a couple weeks ago for the special meeting, and these good folks spoke to us, and I attempted at the time to put a motion in front of the board to add a section, and you told me that was, I believe, inappropriate, not at the time.
Because it was a special meeting, that wasn't on the agenda.
This
Right.
is not a special meeting,
That's correct.
however. And I understand that it's not the typical role of a school board to delve into specific mechanics, how many classes, how many class size, et cetera. We're told that that's things that are not part of our brief. I made some phone calls to some of my fellow board members, not all of them, but enough to, take the temperature about whether or not they would support a motion to add a class, another section. I did get lukewarm commitment for a possible second to the motion. I did not get, after much discussion, I did not get any commitment to vote for that motion. I'm not a politician, but I am smart enough to know that you don't put a motion down that doesn't have a hope in hell of passing. I did sit down with Brad and Lisa and Steve the other day. They did discuss, and I believe almost everybody did, yes? I believe that this was rather universal. I am confident that the administration is working very hard to come up with solutions to this specific problem. I am very encouraged about a long-term multi-grade class idea as we move forward, as we reach these bubbles in other places. I've done my due diligence. I think the research on that is solid. I do know, as has been discussed, that the teachers at AGS believe that they collaboratively are fully capable and excited about working with the second grade cadre. They believe that they can service these students very, very well. I know that that leaves us exactly where we started. But going forward, I don't know that we can do much else short term. Thoughts?
I have one kind of, it's riffing off of this, but it's something that I heard a lot from the conversation over the past 2 meetings. Pretty much to the parents, for anybody that's spoken, and a concern of mine, and you actually took ownership of this too, is the communication, getting out in front of this. And so now that we've talked about that we're going to continue to address this, and the second grade teachers have agreed that, the status quo is, and I believe they're, agreeing with that. What are we going to do as a group to kind of stay in front of that communication curve so that our families kind of are on the same page that we are most of the time, or as much as possible?
We have plans to send communication to the affected families at AGS tomorrow in conjunction with the principal. We also have other class size kind of bubbles that we're addressing with teachers. So I have another meeting for a solution for 2 other schools that we're working on tomorrow. And then after our meeting tomorrow, communication will go out to those affected families as well. So to let them know proactively about some of these problem-solving meetings. We generally try to take like an inside-out approach to this. So especially at the end of the school year when things are really busy, it's not a great time to pull our staff members to collaborate around these things. But we try and do it the best way as possible, but we always feel like we need our staff on board, and we need to hear from them first before we communicate to the families. But we're trying to do that more proactively, so these aren't communications we're sending out in August or in late summer. But we're always going to kind of hedge our bets on some of these communications because things will change. The one consistent is change, and that does happen. We have families move in and out. We see those bubbles as well, and we try and adapt to those changes. So we're going to use every resource that we can in our district to best serve our kids, and this is no different. So we're trying to be a little bit more proactive so that parents can think about what might happen to their kids and what our plan is currently, but also know that that might change.
I did have some thoughts I want to throw out there. Mr. Dryden had said that there are no short-term solutions, and my perspective as a board member personally is that really the short-term solutions isn't really what we should be getting involved in, and more of the big picture. How do we make this process go as smoothly as possible, address the problems, and make sure that we don't repeat problems unnecessarily in the future? Realistically, it doesn't seem like we should address this right now because we won't know our final numbers until August anyways, and for the most part, we're speculating. It seems like we have a solution, hopefully, that the teachers are confident, the administrators are confident, and hopefully with the reassurance of the teachers, the parents will be confident. I don't know that that's guaranteed, but at least that's the process, and the process seems to be working. So the question that I would have to anybody on the board or in the community going forward is, what type of changes do we need to make holistically that we aren't addressing already? And it seems like most of them that at least I am confident that we have a process that works. At least that's what I got from the meeting that I had with the administration and conversations that I've had with my fellow board members. The only thing that I didn't know about was the contingency that was mentioned. I'm guessing that predates me, and the only question that I would have for my fellow board members is if that's something that we would want to put in there, back in there, but obviously that money would have to come from someplace else. And in the financial situation that we're in, I'm not sure that that's something that we want to do or not. I'm just bringing it up because it is something that is completely new to me. So I don't know how it worked. I don't know how often it was used. But I like the direction that we're going. I think that we're going in a positive direction. I think the communication is increased. I think that it is better. And I look forward to seeing how it all works out.
Any other questions or comments before we move on to policy? Would you like to make comments?
I have some comments. I don't say things very often, but when I do, I don't know who I'm more upset at. Parents are very upset about their class sizes. And we had teachers coming to us telling us they needed a third section, to the point of almost poisoning the well at AGS. and it's difficult for me to say that because I'm an AGS parent. We came up with what I think is an exciting, viable solution to reduce class sizes that would please the parents. I would assume they would want smaller class sizes. And now the teachers come to us and say, oh, no, no, no. We'll take what we had. And the parents are supposed to buy that all of a sudden things are fine. I have a hard time believing that they're going to accept that. Is that right? Thank you. I don't know what to say because I was blindsided when I heard about this the other day. That after all this complaining about the solutions that they had gone through this year, that it wasn't working, even though some of us believed it was, we saw growth. I never bought the safety issues, I'm sorry people. AGS has some of the biggest classrooms in the district. Your children are safe in that classroom.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah. I know the process, I know this is what they want. I just think it's gonna be a tough sell to these parents.
Part in their defense of the staff members, part of their message that we discussed was the fact that it is late. It's May 23rd, and that's a big challenge for them. They felt to get assimilated to do this.
But yet other teachers are willing to do it.
Their message to me was not yet. That was their message, and again, they were working on under the understanding that a third section was not an option, and they really weighed these and felt confident about what they could do.
That's fine, but.
I just wanted to represent
I understand
some
that.
of their
No,
feelings.
and I understand that. And if they're willing to do it, that's fine. I just think that we had a viable solution to reduce class sizes, and we're doing it in other schools that teachers are willing to do it. So this idea that it's late in the year, if we have other teachers willing to do it.
I think different people bring different experiences and different outlooks, and I think one of the things that I've always really valued about our district is that we don't cookie cutter it. So I understand that you're a quick thinker and you're a problem solver, but I also think that when we don't cookie cutter things, that we allow people to say, this is really authentic for me, and I really think that I can make this work with my teammates. And we see it happen over and over, and so that's why J.B. Nelson doesn't look exactly like AGS, which doesn't look like Hoover Wood, and that's one of the things I've always really valued. And I know that also can be really hard, because then we can't just say, this is how we do it. But one of, I think, the driving forces in this district is we have demanded as a board that our teachers have a voice in what we do, and
that's why I'm willing to accept. I mean, that's why I'm willing to let them. That's their decision. Have at it. But
and I think that it's really valuable that we have teachers who say, this is what we do, and we're passionate about it, and we're going to come and tell the board about what we're doing. And I'm an AGS parent too, and I stand here and go, I've seen them. I've seen them do amazing things day in, day out. I've never doubted that if a group of our employees come to me and say, this is going to be how we make it work, I know we're going to make it work.
And Sue, just to tack on one other thing, AGS is not the only staff that, we talked about this as a problem-solving solution at multiple buildings. They're not the only school that has said, we've looked at it, we've considered it, we're not going to do it. Just, and again, so you understand that this was looked at 6 schools.
Continually come to us and said, it's not working, we can't do it, it's not a viable solution. They've told multiple, the entire school, they've told their parents how horrible it is, and then all of a sudden, it's a wonderful solution, we're gonna make it work. I don't doubt that you can make it work. You're wonderful teachers. We all thought you could make it work. That's,
I know it's fraught with emotions.
It's very
for all of us.
frustrating.
I get that.
I can really be dispassionate about this. I guess what disturbs me is that we've kind of come in a circle, and we're gonna reassure these parents that their students are going to be serviced, and the fact that they're here 2 months in a row.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're writing, and the fact that they're emailing, and the fact that they find me personally and you on the street or other places, and they're very dogmatic about this one thing. I can be entirely dispassionate about this entire process, yet I also feel left a little empty that essentially we're right now where we are is exactly where we walked in.
Right.
I get it. Would you be willing to support?
No,
Okay.
no, absolutely not.
That's where I thought it came in.
Because, Brad, would you please do me the favor of explaining that Tennessee Star report, or just highlighting the results of it? Because I'm sick and tired of people quoting research.
Well, I mean, there's.
When it's picking and
Welcome to
choosing.
the business.
Is
Yeah.
that something
Right.
you're comfortable doing tonight, Brad?
Well,
No,
just
I mean-
highlighting what the result.
The general approach is that you look for trends in what the research says. So
You can't
there, you
cherry
can find research to really support any viewpoint that you want to bring forward. And there are some larger studies out there, and there's some meta-analyses that we tend to look for, but we look for trends in what the research says. But, you know, debating research is probably not a fruitful exercise at 8:30 at night on a Tuesday about class size, but, so I would rather not.
I would say that there's no doubt that a smaller class size is going to be more successful, but when you have a group of teachers that come up and say that we're willing to take a larger size of second graders because we believe in our abilities and the support system that's throughout that entire school, I would love to, I mean, we're going to have this conversation many more times moving forward, but I would love to see the outcome on this.
I feel misrepresented. I feel really misrepresented right now.
Okay?
But I don't know the protocol, I'm not a Robert's Rule of Orders person, I don't know. But I feel like people are speaking for us, and we're very misrepresented right now.
Are they allowed to talk? I would like to hear from them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to
I'd like to hear too.
My name is Shannon Hemis. I am the reading specialist at AGS. I have two kids who have gone through AGS. I'm an AGS parent myself, and I've been a teacher here for a very long time. I know many people on this board, and I have a great rapport with most of you, and I had a great relationships with you. And I do feel misrepresented right now as teachers because I feel a little bit like you're under the assumption that we're okay with having large class sizes. We are not. We believe as teachers that the best thing is that third section. But when we got offered these options in April, we had just gone through this big process about what our values are and what our new mission statement is at AGS with our new principal. And we said we value collaboration. We value building shared knowledge before making a collective decision. That was really important to us as a staff. And we said, what do we know about split classrooms? And I asked, has anybody done any research on this? And we had a group of teachers at AGS who did research on this many years ago because they were excited about it. They worked in a PLC, they visited schools, they interviewed teachers. They found it was not in the best solution for students. We don't feel like it's best for your students right now because it's not fleshed out. In fact, when I just did a simple Google search on it, research I found said it was a neutral, which okay, it's neutral, to negative effect. And that was a meta study of a bunch of studies that were looked at. And it affects, and that was on studies with teachers that were great with classroom management, well-seasoned, excellent rapport with the parents. Those are the ones who should be placed in those classrooms. It's a philosophical thing. If you start and you build on it over time, it can be good for some kids. So we just really, when we looked at these kids, we thought, we want to do this for 1 year, and then next year what happens? We can't get an answer for you. We don't know. So I feel like we were just...
This isn't, and for me, this is something that didn't affect me as a classroom teacher this year, and it won't next year. But I did have an opportunity to sit with the group and help facilitate conversations with the group. And I'm going to echo what Shannon is saying, that the consensus of our entire staff, we did sit down as an entire staff, was that if we wanted to move forward with something like this, we needed a lot more answers to questions. And it wasn't that we were saying no, it was that we felt like that at this time, we didn't have all the information we needed. We didn't know which kids were going to be in the class, how it was going to be communicated. There were some things that were that we were working through that we felt like we needed more time to plan. We were still discussing this up until yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. This was still a discussion we were having. So I think that we'll leave it at that. I think it was that we felt like there weren't enough answers yet to what we wanted, to what purpose this would serve our school and our students at this point.
Right.
Right.
Not confident.
What I was trying to get at when I first started was, I thought what your statement was vague.
Yep.
And I was having a very hard time to figure out from the meetings we were in a little bit and answering questions. Then hearing you guys talk, it confused me more. I mean, in all honesty,
It
it
reminded
did.
me of a hostage film.
Because
It seemed like a forced statement.
I'm not, personally, I was hoping, and I'm gonna just say, and parents probably won't like this, and I probably don't even like it, but I'm gonna say it. I wish you would've thought a little bit more about the multi. I think it's a challenge out there. And it's okay to fail at times. Kids are resilient. Our young ones are resilient, and they will pick it up. Because why? They have a great background at home. Okay? And I'm not saying you guys are going to fail. You guys will do everything in your power to do your best. I think just to get those class sizes down a little bit, and to put some of those kids into the grades or the levels that they're in, would be very beneficial for it. So that's where I was hoping this whole thing would have went. And then this other item of now we're going to just continue on what we did, it basically threw me. So when I was talking, I wasn't going to go either way because I still don't have the right answer for it. So I'm still struggling on it, and I was just hoping that we could have went with that multi like some other, and just to give it a shot and go with it, get those sizes down a little bit.
May I add something, just district level wise? Sure. For all these groups that had the bubble classes, they were offered to either do a split class with no answers about, like, are we gonna loop the kids? What are we gonna do long term? And the answer is, you guys can decide and figure it out, and there's like absolutely no guidance, and it's.
Hang on a second.
But
Hang on a second, Amy.
they were gonna work.
Hang on a second.
Okay, go ahead and correct that part.
Amy, we talked about this a while ago, and you were very clear to us about teacher voice. That was very, very clear.
Right.
So hang on, I'm struggling when you're misrepresenting conversations we've had.
Okay.
You were very clear about teacher voice. Was everything perfect? No, it hasn't. Not everything's been perfect, but we had a very good meeting last week where teacher voice was definitely infused, was heard, was listened to. I know this is a struggle. This is a really hard thing, and you know, we landed where we landed because we did include teacher voice.
Right.
We were very upfront about, we don't have all the answers to multi-grade. We have schools right now that are collaborating to determine how they're going to do it. What are we going to do with lunch? What are we going to do with specials? We're very supportive of, we want the people who are in the trenches, who are doing the work in the buildings, to be a part of that. So when I feel very mischaracterized when you say publicly that we're clueless about this and we don't have an idea.
I'm not saying clueless. I'm saying there was no-
that's how it seemed. No direction. There's nothing. The reason for not a whole lot of direction, because of the collaborative structures that we've put in place, and we really believe we should work together with teachers to make these sort of decisions. That's the rationale. So please don't continue by
I'm not
misrepresenting
trying
our
to-
conversations.
I'm not trying to misrepresent your conversation. What I'm saying is they didn't have enough answers to feel like they wanted to implement something.
Could make that decision.
Right.
And I try
So
to represent that.
And that was
their choices were to either do that or take the bigger class size, because if they called class size review committee, that would be their
It was totally conveyed.
answer.
Madam President.
So they would try that anyway.
Madam President,
So
point of order.
that's-
Parliamentary
that's
privilege.
it.
This board discussion has devolved to a point where I think we're
Can't
going
have
to lose
audience
control.
members
So
right
I'm gonna ask this.
Thank you, though,
Yeah.
for clarifying
Thank
that.
you
I
all.
appreciate that. That does help.
I'm going to ask this. I'm going to ask for an action item to be added to next meeting's agenda for the board to decide whether or not to add a third section to second grade at AGS. I'm going to ask for an action item to be added. That will give us a couple of weeks to reflect.
Yeah.
Talk about it. Okay?
Sure.
And who knows, maybe it'll even pass.
All right. Next item on our agenda is policy.
All right, so every month we try to bring new policy because it's constantly being reviewed due to changes in legislation and changes in our own practices. But all of them that are here for your review are just based on press recommendations, and they're all from Section 5. So you've had the chance to look at those. These just align us with the press recommendations, which is the legal services that go through and they look at the legislation that's changed, and then they recommend the changes to our policy. So for example, there was child bereavement. There was a new act that was passed, and so our policy has to be compliant with that. So do you have it? Well, what we have it here is as first reading, and then normally we'll bring this back a second time and we'll make any changes that you would like us to make. Do you have any questions or any changes for those policies?
No, just one point of, normally when we update language, if it's from press, we say it's from press, and so that was going to be my question, because we didn't specifically say it was from press, so I was just confused as to whether that was our update or a press update.
Steve, are they all from press?
They are.
Awesome. Then I have no question. All right, so they'll come back next month for second reading and adoption since there was press.
And since you didn't have any changes, I'll probably put those in the consent. Unless there's new policy, then I'll put them all in one report. So then the next report, again, no action. There are 2 curriculum reports. One of them is an annual report from the library, and you had quite a fantastic visual for that report. And then the second is reviewing the ALOP program, which was new this year. So I'll turn that over to Brad.
Sure, there are 2 curriculum reports that I'll just quickly review with the Board of Education and take any questions that you might have. One is a requirement of our per capita grant is that we report to the Board of Education about the progress and what we're doing in our libraries, so you can see that report. These reports can often be pretty dry, given circulation results, and I think they did a fantastic job of really representing what goes on in the largest classroom in each school, which is our school library. So they each took a different approach and worked their way through a process of kind of visually trying to give you the look and feel of what's going on in our school library. So I think they have a lot to be proud of. I have had the opportunity to work with our librarians on their student growth for this year. So all teachers, unless they're specifically exempted by the law, we implemented student growth as a part of their teacher evaluation. So we've gone through a very long process of doing that, and teachers have really embraced the teaching and learning process that goes along with setting goals for kids, setting targets for their growth, and then growing them. And sometimes we wouldn't think necessarily that our librarians go through that process, but they have standards and targets that they're after for their kids, and they work towards those ends as well. And they did a great collaborative work amongst the elementary schools this year that they can really be proud of. The second report that you'll see there is an update to the Board of Education about our Alternative Learning Opportunities Program, ALOP, which at our high school is called the PAUSE program. The PAUSE program, we applied to approved a grant or a grant application to the state of Illinois last year, which would allow us to offer some alternative learning options to students who, through multiple risk factors, have not been successful academically in our schools. And we really felt strongly that we needed to adapt to their needs. And with the help of our staff, they have really, in October, launched a program that I think the Board of Education can be proud of. We've seen significant numbers of students accomplishing their goals. And the approach that Mr. Lesniak and the team have taken at the high school is to really look at what does this kid need and how can I provide it in this environment. What the kids have reflected on and what they've shown is that given some
individualized programming and support of their needs by a strong adult who cares about them, they've been able to be successful according to what their plan is. So you can see in there decreases in discipline, you can see increases in attendance, you can see the percentage of students who are accomplishing their goals. One of the questions that I was asked is what happens if a kid doesn't accomplish their goals? Well, we keep working at it. Just like we never have given up on kids and we won't give up on kids, so we continue to work and modify. Sometimes it means that they're receiving more limited supports because that's all they can handle at that time, but we'll continue to work with students and we won't give up. So I think that the Board of Education took a risk. Remember, they were expending resources in the hopes of getting general state aid back on these students that were part of the program. We knew this wasn't going to be a budget neutral option for our students, and it won't be, but I think it's accomplished its goals of helping students who are not being successful in our school environment be successful. So I'm really proud of the work that they've done. You know, in reflecting on how this year went with that staff, Lisa Placey's done a lot of that work. One of the things that, besides tweaking our program, providing different and more supports, sometimes we get stuck in the box that we know and we need to get out of that box. So increasing those supports and interventions for kids is that we can't wait until a student is credit deficient their junior or senior year of high school to start behaving as adults in this way. So one of the things that we reflected on is intervening earlier with students. What the board can expect at their June meeting is to reauthorize, we're going to ask you to reauthorize that continued ALOP application to the state of Illinois for your next meeting with the potential to expand to our middle school. How many of them are going to graduate?
That number I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know you answered one of the questions I had about the ones not meeting. What were you doing? Because if they were a senior, I was wondering what was going to happen or so on. So, but you're still working on the
Still work, some
individualized
kids,
things,
we've scaled
okay.
back their support, so they're coming from that after school to 4 o'clock time because this is an offset program.
Right.
Which can help them in their general education classes, but I think they're really looking to see what is going to work for this particular kid. Sometimes you have to have a two-way street of kids wanting help and the support being met.
And Mr. Lesniak has enjoyed it and he's done, he thinks he's done a good job with them and all that from
I've talked to him just a couple of times. Lisa Placey's in the audience. She can maybe jump in here for a second because she works more directly with that program. But what I see of Steve, I've known him for a very long period of time, is that he seems to me to be energized by the good work that he's doing.
Okay.
Lisa, did you want to add anything since it's an audience participation night?
I would just say that I've never seen anything like this in Batavia.
Okay.
I've gone and talked to the students. They've said many of them said they never thought they'd graduate. Many of them hospitalized several times for anxiety and depression. There's been 0 hospitalizations from the kids that have come from hospitalization to the program. The kids have expressed, Mrs. Place, I can't believe this. I never thought this could happen. I feel so comfortable here. Next year, all of the kids that are in the program are slated to reduce their time and spend more time in the general ed if they didn't already graduate, which many graduated early.
So that's basically the bottom line is hopefully get them back into the swing of things and get them out a little bit.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's always the goal, and I think really our main concern that we're finding is we wish we would have done this earlier,
Mhm.
especially for our 7th and 8th graders who are struggling with
Okay.
anxiety and depression.
Thank you. Thank you, Brett.
Any other questions about the ALOP program? All right, we'll move on to the action portion of our agenda. The first item on our action agenda tonight is the Chromebook life cycle.
So we're going to turn it over to Don.
I saw that.
Hello. So over the last couple months, we've been talking about the current fleet of Dell Chromebooks that we've had, and I believe it was in the March board meeting, I said that I would recommend that we use all the Dell Chromebooks for another school year, as we had a pretty good deal with the insurance company that's done a good job helping us keep them running. And then, since then though, however, there's one thing's come to light, that our tablets, the supply of tablets that we have is not going to be large enough to support both the kindergarten and first grade levels next year. And as we've seen this happening over this school year, we've been doing like pilot programs, having some first grade teachers use the tablets at the first grade level, and it's been very successful. And in fact, the majority, almost all but 3 sections of first grade around the district have requested that if they could use a Chromebook at the first grade level for next year. And to me, that seems like an ideal solution, because that way we would be able to have enough tablets to use at the kindergarten level, since tablets are really not being purchased anymore because Google has stopped supporting them as far as within education. You can't purchase a license for them, and so it's just really not going to be a long-term device, in my opinion, for the district. So with that said, I also had said at that meeting that I was going to make a proposal in the near future to the board regarding a moving forward beyond the coming school year of a replacement plan for the existing Chromebooks. And I have done that, as you saw in your board packet, of when we would replace various grades, trying to balance balance it over the next few years. And so I believe it's like 3 grades, 4 grades, 4 grades, 2 grades, I think is the way it was, or close to that. And so that's really where we are right now, is a proposed plan looking ahead at 4 years. Of course, you know, things could change over the next 4 years, but that's what I think looks like it might be, that we could afford it, we could handle it, and I think based on the insurance models that are currently out there, I think that that would work. I've spoken with the insurance company, and they seem to think that seems like a realistic plan, and so I was bringing that to the board to hear your questions or comments.
The kids that still take them home will still take them home, and is there any, at the lower level, I know there was a pilot program at one of the places to take them home. Did that work out, or are we going to then keep them in? Did it cause any issues with damage, more damage or anything?
There was very little damage from the pilot at JBN 5th grade. After speaking with the principal at JB Nelson and speaking with some of the instructional techs, and they gathered some feedback for us, we didn't see a large benefit in having the 5th grade students take them home at this time. And so based on just the financial costs of insuring them, buying bags, we thought we wouldn't continue to do that moving forward. However, if we can always reconsider that. And then, what was the rest of the question?
It was just that the sixth through the high school were taking them home, and I just wanted, the issues probably have solved themselves for a while after the first few years. So that's all. I was just wanting to make sure there was not more damage to something.
The insurance has worked out very well, and but there is more damage when they go home than when they're left at school.
Okay. Don, you understand right now you're asking us for an expenditure of $260,000. That's what we're looking to approve right now.
Could you repeat the number, please?
An expenditure of $260,000.
Yes, that would be.
1,300 Chromebooks.
Yes.
It's a not to exceed amount, I think the estimate is
Yeah.
253, but we could have move-ins, we might need to buy a couple more Chromebooks based off of where our enrollment actually lands. Just want to make sure that we're safe.
Any other questions on the Chromebook life cycle recommendation? Right, then I would entertain a motion that the board approve the purchase of 1,300 Chromebooks from CDWG, not to exceed the amount of $260,000 for fiscal year 18 grade levels 1, 2, and 8.
Moved by Locke. Moved by Locke. Can I have a second?
Fine, second.
Second by Lowe. Kathy, could you please call the roll?
Locke.
Yes.
Lowe.
Yes.
Bigbar.
Yes.
Dryden.
No.
Jasper.
Yes.
Drow.
Yes. All right, next item on our agenda is the Quest Food Service renewal.
Mrs. Lindsay.
Lindsay has the next two action items on the agenda.
So the first item on the agenda for food service is the Quest food service contract renewal. We've been using Quest since the 2013-2014 school year, which is right after we had to go out to bid for a new food service provider. Under Illinois School Code, we're required to bid out food service at least every 5 years. So if approved, this would be the fifth and final year with Quest. And then prior to the 2018-2019 school year, we would need to conduct another food service bid. The increase that's presented tonight is a 2.3% increase in our fixed meal rates. And that is specified in our original bid document from 5 years ago. We follow the CPI for food away from home, so it was 2.3%, so that's what our increase is for this year. It's capped at 4%. We expect to spend just under $1.1 million this upcoming year on food service. On the revenue side, we expect to take in slightly more than that. And if you're not familiar with how it works, is that it's not a for-profit program. We cannot exceed a 3-month operating expense. We can't exceed that, so we've done a good job of staying within those parameters the past several years. As far as Quest goes, they've been great to work with, and we've heard positive feedback from them. We meet with them like on a quarterly, at least on a quarterly basis, to review our finances and go over feedback. Some of the things they've done over the past few years, they've introduced new items, new concept stations. They participate in a roundtable committee at the high school with students at the high school, and they solicit feedback from students on what kind of food they want to see. They do food and nutrition demos. They've increased their grab-and-go options, so they've done a wonderful job, we think. And our sales have been improving. Our per capita, which is the average amount a student spends per day, that's increased 40% since last year. And then breakfast sales are increasing as well, which is a new part of the program. It was new a couple of years ago. So on the agenda is we're asking you to approve the Quest contract for the upcoming school year for a 2.3% increase.
Questions on our food service renewal?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, are we using a different inflationary, are we using a different CPI for this? than
It
we use
is,
for other
yeah,
things?
it's the food away from home from December of 2016. So it's not the regular CPI that you're probably thinking of. It's the food away from home CPI, which was 2.3%.
What,
Changes differently.
Yeah, so
I
that
don't-
portion of the CPI looks at actual food costs.
This is a different
food service.
basket? Is that, it's a
Yeah.
different basket, okay.
That's the way the economists.
Milk goes
that's
up
what the-
faster than-
That's the economist lingo.
Okay, got it.
You good, Jim?
Yeah, we're figuring CPI differently for different cities. Yes, that's the answer.
All right. Then I would entertain a motion to approve a one-year contract extension with Quest Food Management Services which would increase fixed meal rates by 2.3% per the terms of their 2013 food services bid.
So moved.
Moved by Locke,
Second.
second by Gaspar. Kathy, could you please call the roll?
Locke,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
Beatty Bar,
Yes.
Dryden,
Yes.
Gaspar,
Yes.
Dremel.
Yes. Great, next item on our agenda is the lunch price increase for next school year.
Yes, so this agenda item is required as part of the Healthy Hunger Kids Free Act of 2010. Every school district that participates in the National School Lunch Program each year has to complete the paid lunch equity tool. And the purpose of that tool is to make sure that the meal prices are more equal with the funds that we bring in from free and reduced price meals. So they look at the weighted average that the district charges for meals, and if you were at 286, then you are considered compliant. If you're below that, then you have a couple different options that you can do. Our weighted average was 265, which is what we charge in our elementary and middle schools. So after completing the tool, it was determined that we're required to increase lunch prices at elementary and middle schools 10 cents. So that would bring lunch prices to $2.75 for the 2017-2018 school year. And then next year, once again, we would need to complete this tool. The alternative options to increasing 10 cents would be either one, we could contribute non-federal funds to the food service account in the amount of $14,000, or contribute approximately $9,500 and increase prices by 5%, or 5 cents. So we are recommending that we increase lunch prices by 10 cents at the elementary and middle schools. So lunch prices would be $2.75, and we're not recommending an increase at the high school.
It would still be behind
Yeah.
on the average or whatever, so.
The most they can require you to increase is 10 cents.
But I think the number was 25.
It was higher than some funds, yeah.
Okay. But the high school's out of this, it's out there.
Correct, they're not part of the national school
Right,
lunch
okay.
programs, and not part of.
So we're not raising the prices because we need money for that, or any reason we're raising prices because the law says we have to?
Yep.
Okay.
We're mandated to increase every year.
Thanks, government.
All right, if there's no other questions, then I entertain a motion that we increase lunch prices at the middle school and all elementary schools by 10 cents to $2.75 for the 2017-18 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Was that you, Mr.
Yeah.
Beatty Bar? Moved by Beatty Bar, second by Lack. Kathy, could you please call the roll?
Beatty Bar,
Yes.
Dryden,
Yes.
Gaspar,
Yes.
Locke,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
Dremel.
Yes. All right, next item on our agenda are comments, administration comments. Dr. Hitchens.
So during our celebrations today, we saw a few big checks, one from the Batavia Foundation and one from the Boosters, and we appreciate their partnerships and the partnerships of all the PTOs that really make this a great place to raise our kids. And the board policy requires you to approve any donation over $500, so we do keep track of those. So there are other donations that aren't on the board agenda. And the ones that you have approved so far in this fiscal year have totaled $160,000. So we really do appreciate all those different partnerships, and that's just the ones that have been recorded here. People also donate their time and their energy in the schools, and we obviously appreciate that as well. So that's my comment.
All right, we'll start with Mr. Lowe tonight.
Oh, fun. Well, I was going to skip all over the individual successes because I figured my fellow board members were going to do that on their
You get to do
own.
it first.
So I'm going to do that anyway. So congratulations to all the successes. They make me happy, and it's one of the best parts of being on the board. I think you can see from tonight's meaning that we have a lot of successes in this district, we have a lot of celebrations, we also still have concerns. And I think we are constantly striving to make us better. We're always learning, we're always growing, like it says on the wall. I don't think that any of us are perfect. I think that as a board member, I probably make mistakes. I think that, or there are things that I could do better. I think that that's probably the case for the administration. I think that's probably the case for the teachers, and it's probably the case for our citizens. The key is that we need to keep collaborating and we need to keep communicating, and hopefully we can keep those doors open, we can get to know each other better, and we can keep growing. So that's all I have to say.
Thanks, Kristen.
I just want to congratulate all the BT grant winners. I was privileged to sit on the foundation board, and I was in the grant committee meeting, and it was so exciting to sit there and award over $35,000 worth of grants to teachers, and some very exciting programs and innovative ideas and things like that for the district. And I'm looking forward to seeing some of those programs and ideas next year come to fruition. Of course, congratulations to all the graduates. Looking forward to tomorrow. That's always one of the highlights of the year for us board members, to sit up there and see all the graduates go down. And I do want to say, I in no way meant to throw anybody under the bus with my comments. I know this is difficult. I hear the teachers, I hear the parents. I hope we can come to some sort of solution and move on from this. But I have a feeling class size is always going to be something we talk about. And I hope the teachers and the parents can work together to resolve this and, come to some kind of solution that people can live with. So, but we're here to listen. So.
Thanks, you. Mr. Weaver.
I'm super thankful that we do start with the celebrations all the time, because that is a great way to start some of these meetings that apparently this is a normal drag on time. But so the celebrations were great. I watched the video this morning when it was sent around for the JBN incubator, and it brought me to tears. I think I was crying 45 seconds in. Apparently I was in one of those apertures where I just needed a good feel-good cry kind of moment. And it was just really great, and it kind of did set me up for what I was looking forward to, a great night tonight. Chris mentioned this, always learning, always growing. This meeting has been incredibly educational for me as an individual and as a board member. There's a lot of people in this district that have voices. There's the parents, there's the teachers, there's the administration, and I have to work on learning how to hear all those voices and figure out where my true north is. So definitely going to be always learning and always growing. Last thing, I went to, speaking of incubators, went to the incubator pitch night the other night at the high school. That was amazing. We have so many brilliant and talented students in this district, and so many dedicated community members who helped coach, the staff that kind of pulled all that together. It was crazy. We were all sitting up on the actual stage of the beef bag, so everything was self-contained in the stage area. It was wonderful. It was like a whole different space you've never been in. And the kids are just like, the ideas, that literally there's one team that's sitting on, I would guarantee $1 million idea already. So, so really great stuff. And I'm just looking forward to a bunch of more meetings where I can continue to learn. And the big thing is that communication aspect. Everyone's saying what they need to say, and hopefully everyone's listening and giving feedback. I love the back and forth tonight, so thanks.
Okay.
Well, that was fun. I'm going to keep working on making this process as democratic as I can, and I'm going to recommit myself in the final 2 years of my tenure on this board to serving my community as best I can and serving my constituency as best I can. And I know that that means at times we'll have some uncomfortable moments between administration and board and other things. And I do know this. I know that everyone involved in this process, teachers, senior administrators, everybody, is doing the very best they can to deal with immediate long-term problems as best they understand them. And our disagreements, our jigs, our jags, are not about ill will, not about self-serving attitudes. Everybody's doing the best they can. And I really, really appreciate when the community shows up and says, we want this. Because how the hell else do we know, really? That's what I got.
Thanks, John. John Gaspar.
Well, I just want to say best of luck to all the graduates tomorrow, and best to Addie. And it was great to hear about all the celebrations today. I wanted to thank all my board members for the communication that we had tonight. It's always an interesting going back, and I listen a lot more than I say things at times, because I just try to get the whole picture. I want to thank everybody here at RJAC for the meetings and for answering my questions and all the hard work you guys have put in. I do appreciate that. I wanted to thank everyone for sending the emails, talking to us, the parents coming out tonight, and I wanted to thank the AGS staff for their talk also. Speaking of the incubator, I was at the tribute to Ann Riegel at JBN with it and so on. It was very moving, and seeing it in the courtyard and everything, what the kids did was very wonderful. There was a wonderful night at the staff recognition, best to all the retirees. I went to the RMS, Greece, Egypt, and Rome night at Rotolo Middle School, which was always interesting. It was funny that because I know I saw your car, but then I didn't see you. But there was a kid who was walking in, he had like the toga on, and he didn't really want to wear it. And his parents said, "Well, you," and so I just turned around and I said, I'm sorry, Hubble. I said, just tell Mrs. Hubble, Mr. G said you get extra credit points. She'll know who I am, because she sent me an invitation. So I don't know if he believed me or not, but he went in there, he had it, along with a few other people that were dressed up and so on, but always a good thing. Over at Hooverwood, they had a nice wax museum exhibit with the kids and all that. That was very interesting. The pitch night that Bob had talked about was very awesome, and I had just commented on my wife on Sunday. I said, boy, if we would have had that app, and I'm not the computer guy, but I told my wife if we had that app, we could know where everything is, because they rearranged Jewel, and my wife always knows where to go, and I just push the cart. And I said, that app would have been great, you know?
That's the $1 million.
Yeah. And then staff, students, parents, please have a safe summer and enjoy. And thank you.
Thanks, John.
So you just read it, Chris. Don't worry about anybody else. Just read it.
And I'm glad you covered everything I didn't.
Yeah, I was gonna say-
I probably missed something.
I covered every single thing going on in the district, so I will not bore anybody by adding anything to it, other than thanking everyone tonight. And I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Gaspar, Hughes, Louder, second by Locke. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
I don't know, John, I said for homebody, you should get out a lot.
You know,